I want to take you back to a time when the past buzzed with irritation, a time filled with laughter and lighthearted pranks that morphed into something a bit more mischievous. My name is Max, and when I was 35, I found myself stuck in the world of flooring as a specialty subcontractor. I mean, it seemed straightforward, just laying down floors and making homes beautiful. What was not straightforward was my so-called friends who had transformed my job into the butt of their relentless jokes. Their laughter echoed through my mind as they made sexual innuendo jokes about my work, tossing around phrases that left me rolling my eyes in annoyance. But there was a point where their playful teasing sparked a devious idea in my head, one that would ultimately spiral into a revenge plot that I'll never forget. The day I finally earned my license should have felt like a milestone, but instead, it felt like it was the cue for a mischievous showdown. That was the day when I mischievously changed my business name to Floor Service. In my mind, I had cleverly repositioned myself, but my friends, who were determined never to let anything go, seized this opportunity for new jokes. "Do you deliver flowers?" they would chuckle over the phone. As ridiculous as it sounded, I knew they were only setting the stage for more pranks. The whole thing quickly turned into a game of telephone. It was here that I realized something awful. Changing my business name was only the tip of the iceberg. The phone company had a system at that time where they listed business numbers the way we wanted them. I thought I was being clever by looking to get a commercial number with a prefix that would make me sound prestigious, even if I was just trying to survive as a contractor. So I paid for a number that would place me in the wealthy East Side suburbs where all the rich people lived and the extravagant renovations happened. Little did I know that the prefix actually landed me in the downtown business core. From the outside, it seemed like a win. Clients thought I was successful and eager to work with me. However, the moment I stepped back from that world to focus more on my family, my entire identity came crashing down. Don't get me wrong, I loved spending more time at home. But the years went by, and as referrals dried up, I had to make a difficult decision. The yellow page ads were chiseling away at my finances. In a moment of what I hoped would be clarity, I let go of the number. Little did I know how badly that would backfire. The moment I relinquished the phone number, it was handed over to someone else, a new business owner who clearly had a hot temperament. He would get the calls meant for me, and instead of offering a simple explanation about the mix-up, his response was filled to the brim with rudeness and fury. I can still remember the music of his voice, cringeworthy and awful. Imagine my friends and me, still stuck in our old habits, dialing that number with barely contained laughter. We would gather at parties, drinks in hand, and launch the infamous prank. "Hey, watch this," one friend would say, and we would erupt in a fit of giggles as the phone rang. Someone on the other end would pick up, and our friend would blurt out, "Do you deliver flowers?" The irritation and confusion would morph into screams of rage as the new owner's voice burst through the line, angry, confused, and utterly exhausted by our incessant telephone antics. What was meant to be a single light-hearted moment turned into countless situations of pure mayhem. You could almost hear my friends high-fiving each other over the phone receiver as we would listen, the chaos amplifying. It was a time to relish in the absurdity of it all as our laughter doubled under the weight of his furious rants. Week after week, it became our ritual. We fed off this man's rudeness, and his frustration endeared him to us in a twisted sort of bond. It did not take long for it to get to the point where this guy had to give up the number completely. He could no longer handle the incessant interruption in his daily life from callers looking for services he clearly was not providing. He had moved into the realm of ridiculousness that we adored while obliviously creating a bond between us through his anger and confusion. And the best part, I took pleasure in the knowledge that while I used a number to promote my business, he would have to adapt to the new situation by redesigning his letterhead and business cards that held my old number. I could only imagine the frustration that brought into his life. The printing costs from that era were something else. It seemed poetic. What was once a source of pride and laughter turned into a situation of absurdity that bubbled into chaos. My friends and I often joked that this poor guy must have been losing it, battling his own disaster every time the phone rang. I could almost picture him swearing at the heavens, feeling the weight of our playful mischief crashing down on him. As time went on, I began to lose track of how much he hated me for this turn of events. Sure, we had our fair share of fun, but it came with its costs. Because while I might have laughed, I started to feel bad knowing I had held on to my reputation at his expense. Deep down, I started to question if revenge was genuinely worth it. Was my laughter built on his despair? The perspective began to weigh heavily on me. I was starting to drift away from the initial joke, but even with that uncertainty lingering in my thoughts, my friends were relentless. They encouraged me that it was all in good fun. This guy was too rude, and I was just getting back at him. They saw me as a hero in this story, a resonant figure who had transformed a moment of cruelty into laughter. Yet, as the calls continued with the same energies behind them, the consequences of my actions became muddy. I had a nagging suspicion that this guy was bordering on being relentless himself. There was a moment in our prank regimens when I realized I had to step back. Was I turning into that which I had once despised? One fateful evening, I decided to confront my friends about it. "Guys," I said, "maybe this has gone a bit too far. We need to give the guy a break." But it turned into a lighthearted bickering match, and I was outnumbered. Their chants of encouragement were hard to resist. They said he deserved it, that he was simply reaping what he sowed. I sympathized in theory, but it felt petty to me. I held my ground a bit, but they found joy in villainizing him, which almost made me feel guilty for siding against them. Perhaps the real twist was that I started to empathize with him. What if he had a family? What if he had been struggling to get his fledgling business off the ground? The deeper I delved into those thoughts, the more emotionally complex my experience became. When the phone rang after we had gathered for one of those memorable evenings, I reluctantly picked up the phone as everyone cheered me on. With the number ringing in my ear, I hesitated, but not for long. I put it on speakerphone. "Do you deliver flowers?" The familiar line slipped from my lips like a serene lament, and our laughter erupted. However, the familiar voice on the other end was not furious like before. It was strained, exhausted, as he answered like sleep had not yet graced him in days. "No, I do not deliver flowers," he shouted. "What kind of sick game are you playing?" My heart sunk. There was something within his voice that chilled me deeply. This was not an angry rant. It was a raw emotional breakdown that resonated with vulnerability. The tiredness of his voice struck me, and for a fleeting second I could see his reality. My friends burst into laughter, but I was no longer sitting comfortably alongside them. I felt unsettled, watching as they pushed back their drinks, slapping their knees, enjoying the disarray taking shape as this poor guy on the other end was probably imploding under the weight of our amusement. It was the moment of reckoning I had needed, and it shattered the false innocence I had clung to. I couldn't shake off the burning desire to make amends. I was stuck in this plot of revenge, improvising humor, but now I had to dig deep to find a solution that wouldn't just end our prank but transform it. I needed a final act that could break this cycle. In a reckless moment, I dialed the number back. The cheers around me quieted, and I could hear the trepidation in their voices, but I had a thought racing through my mind. I needed to speak not just as a business owner, but as a person. When he picked up, the tone had shifted once again. "What do you want?" This time, rather than the rude name-calling I was used to, my voice steadied. "I want to apologize," I said. "I know I am the cause of your frustration. You deserve better than this." I could feel the silence settle on my friends like an awkward blanket. The tone of his voice was perplexed as he responded, "Who is this?" There was caution behind his words, but I pressed on, telling him I was Max, the previous phone owner before the number was assigned to him. I explained everything, how the prank had gotten out of hand, how I had believed it was harmless fun. I told him that I knew my behavior was not justified, especially if it was causing him misery. To my surprise, his voice softened slightly. "Max," he responded, the weight of his exhaustion finally registering, "so you were the prankster." I could sense the wheels clicking in his mind, and I felt a layer of tension wash away. I was unearthing a window to an unexpected connection. "I have to admit," he continued, "it has been frustrating. I thought it was creepy, but I also thought it was ridiculous. You've made my first month's hell." "I know," I said, "and I am genuinely sorry." What emerged shifted the conversation naturally. My friends watched, shocked, as we each laid down our swords. "Can we make a truce?" I asked. In that moment where laughter had been turned to outrage, I saw glimmers of understanding being exchanged, and I hoped I had reached him. "I suppose we could," he said, nearly incredulous. Surprisingly, he laughed softly and admitted the whole affair had been a strange chapter in his life. And in that instance of vulnerability, I felt the weight bearing down dissolve more, edging closer to mutual respect. After that conversation, I offered him a chance to run joint advertisements together, and he agreed. Our worlds collided through business partnership instead of ridicule. We made the decisions to share stories with our respective audiences, learning from one another. It felt good to reconcile. While initial reservations lurked, we both dug into the conversations and expanded our boundaries together. As the years rolled on, our strange bond began to blossom through additional dialogues, and gained a unique friendship that blossomed from the initial "do you deliver flowers" nuisance. I ended up helping him with local charity events, and he featured my flooring services in a few of his promotions. Each move forged our intertwined paths further away from cliff edges of revenge. It turned out sweet retribution was not in the laughter, not in the initial joy of pranks. True satisfaction came from moving beyond the joke and learning together to build up instead of tear down. The lesson I took away was immeasurable. People can surprise you in their humanity, and the pursuit of revenge can lead one to reflection and redemption in unexpected ways. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and if you ever find yourself tangled up in a moment of humor turning painful, remember connection often finds its way back even from the fences we build. So what was your favorite part of this story? Share your thoughts below, and if you want to uncover more tales like these, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to stay updated on the latest stories.